Okay, we're going to talk today about the death of Seth Rich. It's been exploding across the internet, especially on Twitter. People are all talking about this guy, and the irony is that I believe he was killed in October or September. I forget the exact date. Let me look it up. Actually, no, he was killed on July 10th, 2016. Which is pretty odd. So who else was killed in July in Washington, D.C.? Turns out that Vince Foster was killed on July 20th, 1993. Anyway, to obviously complete the segue, Vince Foster, let's say if the Vince Foster investigation had been properly conducted, we would not be dealing today with the death of Seth Rich. It's possible that if it had been investigated and it had been discovered, the malfeasance, whatever happened, I can't outright say that he was murdered by somebody or anybody else because I'm not sure. It has nothing to do with legality. I can't say for sure who killed him. I just don't believe he committed suicide. But if that had been investigated, that death in 1993, I do believe that the Clinton administration would have been rocked to its core. We would have seen impeachment for sure. And it's time for us to delve into the Seth Rich issue. So this is an interview on Fox 5 DC with Rod Wheeler, a private investigator that's been looking into the death of Seth Rich. So notice a few threads and themes in this video. Let's get it started.
Since Seth Rich was killed on a street in northwest Washington. He was shot twice in the back, just steps from his own home, and just after 4 a.m. on a July morning. The death of the 27-year-old staffer at the Democratic National Committee has been clouded in mystery and speculation ever since. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange.
Okay, that's Megyn Kelly. This is in 2016. And Julian Assange was already saying, yeah, this is a real problem, and he was giving reward money for any news and information leading to finding the killer of Seth Rich. Why would he be so interested? Could it be that he was leaking documents to Assange's organization, WikiLeaks?
Offered a reward, hinting that Rich's death was tied to DNC documents that had earlier been given to WikiLeaks. Seth's father, Joe Rich, discounted that theory last fall.
Anybody who knew Seth knows that's not his personality or what he believed in. It's so counter what Seth believed in.
So what he just said, I'm going to come back to that aspect of it, wasn't what the family says, because I don't believe that father for a second.
Brother told Fox 5 that the family is trying to keep the story front and center with the public, but it's an uphill battle.
We start looking at, okay, we have different ideas of people, would either come to us or that we come up with, such as, drug flyers to people in the general area. But all the ideas take some level of resources or funding that we don't have. There's a lot of stones that we may want to turn over and we want to look through, but we need the ability to do that.
Well, part of the help the Rich family needs is coming from our next guest, Rod Wheeler. He's a former D.C. homicide detective and Fox 5 News contributor who's now working with Seth Rich's family. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, Allison.
Let me just ask you this. Why so few leads in this case?
Right, the police don't have, I don't think the police right now, the detectives have a clue in terms of who caused the death of Seth Rich. And I think that's one reason, Allison, why the family has engaged me and my company to help the police look into this a little bit more, try to come up with more evidence, try to find witnesses, because they really just don't have a clue.
What is your role in this investigation, and what did the family ask for?
Right. They just wanted me to kind of, because I am familiar with D.C.
So let's put this into perspective. A staffer at the Democratic National Committee killed during the thick of the 2016 election and also the Hillary Clinton investigation by the FBI. I think this was within a few days of James Comey's statement that Hillary Clinton, the Hillary Clinton investigation is closed. So since then, the only person to really speak out about this, who is an investigator into the Seth Rich death, is a private detective. So think about that for a second. Nobody else. There's not even DC Metro Police. Not even, well, in the case of Vince Foster, it was the Park Police. It was U.S. Park Police. Can you believe that? That somebody this high profile, or at least connected to a high profile organization, would be investigated by, in one case, a private investigator, and in the other case, U.S. Park Police.
And, you know, been a previous DC homicide detective. They just wanted me to kind of look into the case a little bit more, see if I can develop some leads, interview some people, which I've been doing over the past 3 weeks. What's really interesting, since I've been looking into this case, I've uncovered quite a few things, but not necessarily related to Seth's death, but related to an underground, a possible underground corruption, organized crime corruption group that may be operating in the district. Because I started looking at other homicides and deaths that were called homicide, or called accidental deaths, but could have been homicide. So this case, Allison, may actually open up a can of worms as far as what's been going on here in D.C.
As much as you can, tell us what you found and how might this murder be involved,
so to speak, with the police investigation. So you have to ask yourself, why is that? Why hasn't anybody come forward? There's been a lot of reward money that's been offered for any information. No one has come forward. So here's the thing that's so important to realize. Whenever you have a lot of reward money, in this case, it's over 100.
So this is a good question. This is somebody who was well known. This wasn't some crack addict that was shot in an alley that you know was living on the edge. This was a person who was a yuppie professional working for you know for a major organization, killed randomly. No signs of robbery. Nobody's come forward with any information despite both a reward and the high-profile nature of the case.
$125,000. If you don't have anyone coming forward with information, then what that tells you as an investigator is that maybe you need to start looking at another cause or another reason as to why this guy was killed. And that's what we're doing now. We're looking at possibly, of course, a street robbery, but it could, and I underline the word could, it could have been related, his death, to his job. It could have been related to something else. What I don't think it's related to, though, Allison, is this Russian hacking.
Okay, let's talk about that.
You're going to ask me about that.
Let's talk about that because Jack Berkman sat on the same couch and said that the family has asked him to look into the death of their son Seth, and has also said that he has found connections with from a former CIA person, I believe, with Russia and all this, and the WikiLeaks reward money is involved with that, more than $120,000 too, because they say they're hinting at the fact that perhaps Seth Rich may have given some documents.
Sure.
So help us parse all this out.
Well, a lot of people have made that same observation, and you have to ask yourself, what is the motivation behind a person wanting to get involved and offer reward money? Maybe he's just a good guy and he has a lot of money laying around, so this is how he wants to spend his money. But you have to be careful, though, when you start throwing out these conspiracy theories. They actually don't help the investigation at all. You know, if you have a guy who's in the Army, and I think that's what Berkman said, he knew some guy in the CIA or the Army who had information, okay, then that guy needs to be talking to the police detective, not Jack Berkman. You know what I mean?
Did the family talk to Berkman? Do you know how this relationship came about?
I think they have had some discussions with him, but I can tell you and the viewers that I don't think Berkman is officially a representative of the family. Now, the family have their own spokesperson, right? But you have to be careful with throwing out these theories. I haven't found one shred of evidence at all that indicates that Seth's death is the result of any Russian hacking or anything like that.
So he's already debunking misdirection theory that's going on right now, that the Democrats are probably going to try to get propagated that it was Russia that killed Seth Rich. Yes, the Russians, they killed a DNC staffer who apparently might have spilled the beans on all their dirty laundry. Yes, that's what happened. Exactly.
I do think it's possible, and I underline the word possible, that it could have been related to his job to some degree or relationships with the job. Don't know that for sure, but as investigators, we have to go down every path until we can determine who was responsible for his death.
That's so mysterious and curious, Rod. Anything else you can tell us? Like, why would a DNC staffer be involved or be a potential victim?
Well, you know, I don't want to speculate because you have to be careful when you speculate with a homicide case, but I will tell you this, and I will say this real quickly to the viewers, is that any information anyone has, bring it forth, either give it to me and I'll give it directly to the police or give it directly to the police. This case, as well as a number of other homicides in the city, can be solved, but we have to rely on citizens to help us out.
All right, so no new leads from the police is what I'm hearing.
That's the bottom line, yeah.
Okay, Rod Wheeler, thank you very much. Come back and see us.
Thank you, Allison.
Mike, over to you. All right, thank you, Allison.
So that was actually Seth Rich, family investigator Rod Wheeler, about a month ago, apparently. This is him like a few minutes ago or something on Hannity.
Who hired you? I've known you a long time, Rod. You're a man of honor and integrity, so tell us who hired you.
Well, actually, I was hired by the family, Joel and Mary Rich. They signed the contract. Now, the financial benefit, if there were any financial benefit, and by the way, there wasn't much, that was actually paid for by a third party that I have had very little communication with at all, Sean.
Yeah, all right. Let's go through this case. The timeline is fascinating here. As I played in the last segment, Julian Assange, I asked him repeatedly on radio and television if Russia was involved. Absolutely not. Now, believe him or not, he's a guy that WikiLeaks has an 11-year history and never been proven wrong. And all these leaks, by the way.
That's an important point to make. As much as we have all these people calling, Hillary Clinton even said Russian WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks has never put out any document that's been proven to be a false, proven to be a what's it called, a counterfeit or a forgery, whatever you want to call it. So let's put that into perspective for a second.
Ended up being, a lot of them ended up being published in places like the New York Times. So I guess my question is, when you look at the timeline of this, and 12 days after he was killed, it shows up on WikiLeaks, what did you discover in terms of the contacts with WikiLeaks?
Right, well, that's an excellent question, and let me clear that up right now, exactly what it was that I found. Now, I have never seen the emails myself directly. I haven't even seen the computer that Seth Rich used. Here's the problem with all of this. I don't even know where the computer is. I checked with the police department. They said they don't know where the computer is. And the FBI, they say they don't have the computer. Now, where did this information come from in terms of knowing or believing, I should say, that Seth Rich could have been in communications with WikiLeaks? There was a federal investigator that was involved on the inside of the case, a person that's very credible. And I'll tell you, let me just say this, Sean, I don't like to suggest things without saying the person's name. But I can't say the person's name because that person will be thrown under the bus, and I can't do that. But this person, we checked him out. We have to check him out. Very credible. He said he laid eyes on the computer and he laid eyes on the case file. And he came across very credible. When you look at that with the totality of everything else that I found in this case, it's very consistent for a person with my experience to begin to think, well, perhaps there were some email communications between Seth and WikiLeaks. Every time I talk with the police department, though, Sean, every time I talk to the police department about the WikiLeaks or the emails, it's automatically shut down. That discussion is automatically shut down.
Well, so we don't know for sure if the FBI or the D.C. police have any access to these forensics, this email, these emails?
Right. We don't know. We actually have a statement from the FBI telling us to contact the D.C. police. The D.C. police says contact the FBI. Now, which is it? If this is just a murder investigation, first of all, why would the FBI be involved? The only reason the FBI would be involved, just so that the viewers understand, is if this has some degree of national exposure, meaning because maybe it is related to the DNC, and we don't know that.
So this was the same template used with the Foster quote-unquote investigation. The FBI was kept out of the actual investigation into the murder, and they were only brought in during the Whitewater committee hearings that, they were probing the investigation itself, but they weren't doing the actual murder investigation was conducted by the Park Police, the U.S. Park Police. Why they would pick the U.S. Park Police, which is, to be honest with you, first of all, they have limited access. It's not like they have jurisdiction over over a massive territory. And compare that. This is federal territory. They could have easily given the investigation to the FBI, U.S. Marshals, the Secret Service even, because Vince Foster worked at the White House. The Secret Service does do investigations, just so you know. Instead, they gave it to the U.S. Park Police, and eventually there was this huge mix-up over who was responsible for what. And basically, the White House did its utmost to keep the FBI from actually executing a real investigation. In fact, they were relegated to observer status. And Christopher Ruddy actually talks about that. Hold on a second. Here on page 171 of The Strange Death of Vince Foster, and I'll put the link to it in the description to the Amazon book. It says, page 171, official investigators and congressional inquiries have glossed over the serious issues raised by Sessions, that's Bill Sessions, the head of the FBI fired by Bill Clinton, as well as questions as to why the FBI was not given lead or even secondary status to participate at each step of the Park Police probe. So this is a standard tactic of the Clinton machine. They incapacitate the levers of government that are capable of delving into their crimes. So like I always say, it's easy to be pro-police until you realize that the police are not even pro-police work.
We don't know that for sure. It could have been a botched robbery. But my point is this, Sean. I've been investigating murders for a while. You have to look at every possibility. You can't just look at one thing and say, well, that has to be it.
Have you ever seen a lot of robberies, which is how they've been looking into this case, where the person has their wallet and their watch after they've been shot and killed in the back?
No, I haven't. Now, that's not to say that that could not happen.
Look at him almost laugh at that question.
But here's the thing, and this is so important. There's been a $125,000 reward out for information pertaining to the death of Seth Rich. Not one person has come forward. Here's one other thing that's going to be startling, and I'm just going to say this right now. I reached out to the police department way back in March when the family first hired me, right, to get involved. I didn't hear anything from the police department for 2 to 3 days. Guess what I learned yesterday from the family of Seth Rich? The police department did not call me back because someone, a high-ranking official at the DNC, check this out, a high-ranking official at the DNC, when I called the police department, they got that information and called the Rich family wanting to know why was I snooping around.
Wouldn't that explain how is it possible that the DNC, when the FBI wanted to look at their computers, was able to bring in their own people?
So that's a good question. If he called the police department, how did the word get back to the DNC that the police department had been contacted? There must be some sort of connection between the Democratic National Committee and district police.
The people that ended up getting immunity ended up being able to destroy their laptop computers. Is there any evidence that he might have been disgruntled at the treatment of Bernie Sanders and the unfairness, and that the fix was in to put Hillary in that position, and maybe had evidence of that?
No, I haven't seen any evidence in that regard. The only thing that I have been able to confirm is that there were some problems that Seth was having on his job at the DNC right before he was killed. And the person, listen to this, the person that called the father after I called the police to get information, that's the person that Seth was having problems with at the DNC. So, connect the dots here. It's starting to all come together. So again, let me just really quickly say this. I don't know for sure. I don't know as a matter of fact if the emails went out to the WikiLeaks or anybody else, but it sure appears that way.
All right, Rob Will, thanks for being with us. I appreciate it. When we come back.
Okay, so final words on this. I mentioned before that the family reaction, they were saying, oh, it's not in his character to go to WikiLeaks. No, we don't believe that he did it. No, we believe, well, we have no idea why he would be killed and whatnot. The same reaction came over the Foster family after Vince Foster died. And eventually, they started lashing out at people trying to investigate whether Vince Foster's death is a suicide. Listen, if your family member commits suicide and he's in a high-ranking position in any government, it doesn't matter if it's the U.S. government, but I'd say anywhere, and these things happen, and you're saying, oh, don't investigate it, then, excuse me, but your family closure isn't really taking precedence over the public interest, okay? The public has a right to know why a high-ranking attorney for the Clintons supposedly committed suicide in 1993 in the case of Vince Foster. Likewise, with Seth Rich, the public has a right to know what's happening with a murder that occurred in 2016 during the thick of election fever and FBI investigation fever, and he was a member of the not a member of the DNC, but he was a DNC staffer. So what I believe is happening is that there is intimidation, and that there is this issue where these families, the Foster family was for sure intimidated. In fact, it's well known from a number of sources. In fact, for example, Webb Hubble even makes mention that Vince Foster's wife, Sheila Foster, was extremely, or was it Lisa Foster? Hold on. His wife's name was Lisa Foster. She believed that she was, first of all, very jealous of Hillary Clinton because Vince Foster used to spend a lot of time with Hillary Clinton. There were rumors that Hillary Clinton and Vince Foster were having an affair for years. And not just between Vince Foster and Hillary Clinton, but also between Hillary Clinton and Webb Hubble, the other law partner in the Rose Law Firm. All three of them were Rose Law Firm attorneys. And it's rumored that Hillary Clinton cheated with either one or both of them. That's where the famous Chelsea Clinton paternity controversy comes from. So anyway, during the Foster investigation and several years later, once the investigation had officially been concluded, Lisa Foster ended up saying that those who think that her husband was murdered are kind of hurting the family and whatever. Look, the fact is that your husband died in a public park. He apparently, we're supposed to believe that he went to a public park that he's never known to have visited and killed himself without any prior notice from anybody of any apparent notion of suicide. There's all these claims that he lost weight. In fact, apparently he gained weight since he'd gone into working as the White House counsel, deputy counsel. So what do you think? Type in the comments below. There's Vince Foster. If we had properly investigated the Vince Foster death, we would never have had Seth Rich's death. I fully believe that Hillary Clinton would have been implicated in some sort of cover-up related to the death of Vince Foster, and we would never even have talked about her being a candidate for anything except for parole, possibly. And I'm not saying that she killed him. I'm saying that I don't believe it's a suicide. Okay, I don't believe it's a suicide, and I'm being, deliberately, neutral about this. Although, how can I say I'm neutral when, I'm saying that this investigation was bogus back in 1993? But even so, let's talk about these questions. Why is it that this DNC staffer's death is only being investigated now, and only because of media pressure, and it's local media pressure, and it's alternative media pressure? And therefore, why is it that in 1993 we had this guy killed himself apparently in a public park that he'd never visited. And he was the White House lawyer, and Whitewater was going on, and he was organizing all of Hillary Clinton's affairs. Can anybody answer those questions? Anyway, this is Ramon, Bold Like a Leopard. And there's more to come. Have a great night. And, stay cool. It's getting hot out there.